Hola estudiantes, hoy vamos a comenzar a estudiar la gramática del capítulo 10 y vamos a comenzar con mandatos formales, formal commands, ¿ok? Recuerden que en español hay situaciones formales e informales y las estructuras gramaticales, the grammatical structures are different for formal situations and informal situations, ¿ok? Okay, what is formal and what is informal? Okay, usamos, when we're talking about formal, we're going to use usted o ustedes, okay? And informal es vosotros o vosotras, que solamente se usa en España, y ustedes en Latinoamérica. Okay, ¿qué son situaciones informales? Okay, cuando estamos con nuestra familia, familiares, parientes, primos, tíos, amigos. Okay, formales es cuando estamos en situaciones que debemos mostrar respeto por la otra persona. Por ejemplo, estamos en el doctor, estamos hablando con una persona mayor, estamos hablando con el profesor, okay, estamos en una entrevista de trabajo. Todas estas son situaciones formales, ok. ¿Recuerdan el Dr. House? Ok, yeah. ¿Cuáles son sus síntomas? Ok, tengo tos, náuseas, dolor de cabeza, fiebre. Ok, usted tiene la gripe. Ok, Dr. House was a genius. He was. Ok. Ok, ¿cuáles son los mandatos formales de formal commands? Tome aspirina, guarde cama y beba té. Vamos a ayudar al presidente Obama. Tiene un trabajo muy estresante, así que se puede enfermar fácilmente. Me duele el estómago. Tome el antiácido. Me duele la garganta. Tome el jarabe. Me duele la cabeza. Tome la aspirina. Estoy muy estresado y no puedo dormir. Tome un calmante. The calmante can mean either painkiller or sort of a downer, tranquilizer. Okay. Creo que tengo una infección del oído. Ok. Tome un antibiótico. El Dr. House tiene muchos consejos y mandatos médicos para mejorar la salud. Duerma 8 horas al día. Coma menos grasa. Tome vitaminas todos los días. Haga ejercicio. Levante pesas. Dr. House, creo que me rompí el brazo, pero no estoy seguro. ¿Cuál es el consejo o el mandato formal del Dr. House? Vaya al médico y hágase o tómese una radiografía. Okay, we conjugate hágase y tómese this way because these are reflexive verbs, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Dr. House, no quiero que mi hijo tenga viruelas. ¿Qué puedo hacer? Que póngale una inyección o póngale una vacuna. Ok, los mandatos formales, the formal commands. How do you create formal commands? Use the conjugation of either usted or ustedes, it depends, okay, of the subjunctive form, of the subjunctive tense. Has to be either in the singular or the plural third person. in the formal way of address. Okay. Negative commands put no before the verb. Okay. No hable así conmigo. No vayan al bar demasiado. No tomen medicina que no necesitan. These are some of the examples that are in your textbook. And it's good that you look at them. Okay. Remember, we only have either singular commands or plural commands. Duerma 8 horas al día, singular. Okay. Duerman with an N at the end, 8 horas al día. And what you're going to do is conjugate in the present tense of the subjunctive, either singular or plural, in the third person. Okay. Ahora el Dr. House va a ver a otros pacientes. A veces hay más de una persona en su consultorio. A veces tiene que decirles lo que no deben hacer. Okay. Dr. House, fuma mucho y me duele la garganta. No fume. Dr. House, tomé sol durante 8 horas y ahora me duele todo el cuerpo. No tome demasiado sol. Dr. House, estoy muy estresado. No trabaje tanto. Okay, now what happens when you have to form a command, mandato, and you have verbs with either that are either reflexive or are accompanied by direct or indirect objects? Okay, you remember the reflexive verbs, sentarse, ponerse, lastimarse, bañarse, and you know that they are reflexive because they end in se, terminan en se. How do you conjugate them? Yo me siento, tú te sientas, él se sienta, nosotros nos sentamos, vosotros os sentáis, ellos, ellas, ustedes se sientan. Okay, so they are accompanied by reflexive pronouns. Okay, and there are verbs are accompanied by indirect or direct objects, como aconsejarle, darle, decirle, recomendarle. Okay. And there's a difference between pronouns for indirect objects and pronouns for direct objects. And these are the pronouns for indirect objects. Los pronombres de objetos indirectos. Me, te, le, nos, os y les. Para los pronombres de objetos directos son me, te, lo o la, nos, os, los o las. Okay. If you don't remember any of this, what is a direct object? What is an indirect object? What are the pronouns for direct objects? What are the pronouns for indirect object? You should go to your My Lab and take the tutorials that are available there. These are material from the class 1102. So you're supposed, by this time, you're supposed to know all this, but if you need some review, take the tutorials or review the material in your textbook, okay? Now, si el verbo es reflexivo, if the verb is reflexive, or is accompanied by a pronoun of an indirect or direct object, and you're going to create an affirmative command, vas a escribir un mandato afirmativo, so you're going to put it at the end of the verb. Váyase de aquí, okay? Dele la medicina. Escríbale una receta, por favor. Tómate el calmante. Okay, repeat. Put the pronoun, either the reflexive pronoun or the pronoun for the direct or indirect object at the end of the verb, forming a single sentence. And because it's a single sentence, sometimes it's multi-syllables, have more than three syllables. Usually, the accent goes when we have three syllables in the first syllable from left to right. When we have more than three syllables, it's usually the second syllable from left to right, but there are exceptions, okay? So, váyase, dele, escríbale, tómate. Now, the negative, el negativo de los mandatos formales of the formal commands, what you're going to do is you're going to put the pronoun of the reflexive verb or the pronoun of the direct or indirect object before the verb, okay? Okay, if you have an affirmative command, like preocúpese, in the negative form, it would be no se preocupe. No se preocupe, señora. Su hijo está bien. You're going to put the se instead of at the end of the verb, forming a whole sentence. You're going to put it before the verb, and there are two different words. Well, at least one particle and a word. Okay, háganle. Háganle. Okay. In the negative would be no le hagan caso, chicos, está de mal humor. You're going to put the le before hagan. Hábleme. No me hable así, señor. You put the me instead of at the end before hable. Okay? Let's practice a little bit in the visual, using visuals. Okay, let's say we have a sentence with pronouns with indirect objects and direct objects, and you want to substitute those direct or indirect objects with a pronoun. Okay. Beba los antibióticos, señor Díaz. Okay. We want to substitute the direct object, los antibióticos. Okay. So how do you write the pronoun? ¿Cómo escribes el mandato formal? Bébalos. Bébalos. Okay. Los antibióticos is singular, is plural, is a direct object. Los. Bébalos. You put los at the end of the verb. No los beba. Okay. If it's negative, you put los before the verb. And in the first one, in the affirmative, because it's a three-syllable word, you're going to put an accent in the first syllable from left to right, okay? Beban los antibióticos ustedes. Ustedes is not needed, but let's just keep it there. Okay, and you want to substitute los antibióticos, the direct object, for a pronoun. Okay, bébanlos. Bébanlos. Okay. No los beban. No los beban. Okay. Okay. Diga el diagnóstico al señor Díaz. Diga el diagnóstico al señor Díaz. We have a command. We have a direct object and we have an indirect object. But in this case, we want to use an indirect. We want to substitute the indirect object using a pronoun. Dígale el diagnóstico. Dígale el diagnóstico. No le diga el diagnóstico. If it's affirmative, you're going to put le at the end of the verb. If it's negative, you're going to put le before. Okay. Diga el diagnóstico. We get rid of the direct object al señor Díaz. And we get rid of the indirect object too. So we're going to use the command together with two different pronouns. The pronoun of the direct object, el diagnóstico, and the pronoun of the indirect object, el señor Díaz. Dígaselo. Dígaselo. Okay. Se stands for the indirect object for el señor Díaz. el objeto indirecto, and lo stands for the direct object, el objeto directo. Okay, dígaselo. And in this case, we have a multi-syllable word, but the accent is also in the first syllable. Okay. Digan el diagnóstico a los amigos. Digan el diagnóstico a los amigos. Okay, let's get rid of the indirect object and let's substitute it with the pronoun. Díganles el diagnóstico. Díganles el diagnóstico. If it's affirmative, if it's in a negative, no les digan el diagnóstico. No les digan el diagnóstico. Okay. Now let's get rid of the direct object and the indirect object. Díganselo. Díganselo. Okay, se stands for the indirect object, which is los amigos. Okay. And lo stands for the direct object, which is el diagnóstico. Okay, and they always follow this order. First the indirect pronoun, then the direct pronoun. And you study that in 1102. Okay. Acostarse. Okay, when we're talking about acostarse, acostarse is a reflexive verb. So how do you, and you want to create a command, you're going to use the, acostarse is not only reflexive, but it's irregular, it's a stem changing verb. So this is how you create the mandato formal, the formal command. Acuéstese temprano. Acuéstese temprano. You can see that it ends in se. Now, if you were in the negative, you will say, no se acueste temprano. No se acueste temprano. You put the reflexive pronoun at the end of the affirmative command and before the verb in the negative. Okay? Acostarse temprano, ustedes. Okay? Acuéstense temprano. Acuéstense temprano. No se acuesten temprano. No se acuesten temprano. Okay, I assume there's going to be questions about this. So just post them in the e-classroom, okay, or send me an email, okay? Okay.